What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is Gator Week. We are talking the real thing now. No more projection and this and that. We're talking about football, one team against another, a team on the rise, a team on the decline, a hated rival. We will be talking about every aspect of this matchup. We got news on Mark Fletcher from Mario Cristobal, some very big news, which we'll talk about. Also talk about Canes camp. There was a video came out, a lot of interesting stuff in there about people rising in camp, matches, things that you've been hearing exclusively on the Canes Insight podcast for a while and on CanesInsight.com. So we'll talk about all of that and plenty more. It's a huge week for us. We're going to give you a ton of content, more than you could consume, but we'll be flooding you with it, just like Cam Moore is going to be flooding the Gators defense with receivers and running backs and offense and touchdowns. First, I want to talk about some folks who are consistent. That is Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. There's no up and down with these guys. It's not like the Florida Gators where they get blown out one week and then they look decent the next. These guys are consistent. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. If you or someone you care about has been in an accident, they don't get paid until you get paid. They could help you potentially get significant compensation. All right, Pete, hop in here. Got some news today to lead with. Mark Fletcher, Mario Cristobal asked about it by Joe Rhodes. He says he is ready to roll. All good, all healthy, ready to roll. What was your take hearing that from Coach Cristobal?
Look, D, you and I think all offseason we were cautiously optimistic hearing that he was making really good progress in his return, but at the same time, understanding the severity of the injury, it being a foot thing, and as a running back, obviously you're taking a pounding on those feet. So we're cautiously optimistic. Didn't want it to get anyone's hopes too high, but man, I think this is huge news. Look, whether he gets 10, 15 carries in this game, I don't know if that's the case, but just the fact that he's available and ready goes a long way. Shout out to Trenton Breeze for the graphic, our new intern here at CanesInSight. And you guys see it there. And listen, Mario, as we understand, is very conservative when it comes to not only talking about injuries in general, but when he's talking about availability of players. So, I mean, it has to be a great sign for how far he's come in his recovery.
No, and look, now that it's out there and they did the whole thing, the Canes camp video, which we'll talk about in a second, they had a ton of stuff on Fletcher. I can say what I've seen and what I know. I really don't know how much he's going to play, if he's going to play. I don't know the game plan for the Florida Gators. I don't want to know. What I can tell you is I saw him in person. He looks good. He looks healthy. He looks powerful. And his size, man, this guy is bigger than Damian Martinez by a good amount. I think he might have grown because he's always been a big guy, but seeing him next to Damian Martinez, who's a 235-pound NFL back who's punishing people in the Pac-12. I mean, Fletcher is significantly taller and just as powerful. So huge player. Again, looked explosive when I saw him. He is going to play a lot this year. We'll see. Is it the first game? Is it not? I really don't know. But I can tell you that this guy is a true game-changing player with his physicality, and his intangibles are just as good as his tangibles. So you're not just talking about guys that can help you on the field. You're talking about guys that you want to be the face of your program or one of the faces of your program. There's a lot of good players here. It's not just one guy you're counting on to save you, like maybe the Gators are dealing with Montreal Johnson. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But a lot of good players that can help you. And Fletcher is one of them. Will he play? I don't know. But I can tell you firsthand, I've seen him. He looks explosive, and he looks gigantic. One thing I also want to talk about here, Canes camp. So YouTube, the official, the athletic department has been putting out these videos. I'm sure you guys have seen them of Canes camp, right? These are highly edited, very professional videos. You got select practice clips edited to make sure they don't give anything away, to the Gators, but some action stuff and interviews. And one thing I get from those is I get a cue to talk about things that I was kind of holding in, but now that's out there, we talk about it. Fletcher, of course, that's one. That was on full display in that video. Damian Martinez, a 75-yard touchdown run, which, I witnessed and was unbelievable. I mean, I'm not saying he's Willis McGahee. Please don't reproduce that. But it looked like Willis McGahee. He ran right through Wesley Basaint like he wasn't even there. He went 75 yards and didn't get even close to caught against the first team. So pretty special. Haven't seen that in a while. Pete, one thing that we try to pride ourselves here on the Hurricane, on Canes Insight, and on this daily podcast is we like to be on top of the Hurricanes before it gets reported more publicly, right? We want to be on top of these trends, on top of things that are happening. We are trying to be first, but first with accuracy and first with respecting the team. And I can say back in May, right when these guys got on campus, we were jumping on here and we were saying the two most impressive freshmen that everybody's talking about are these summer arrivals, Jordan Lyle, OJ Frederique. Two St. Thomas guys they weren't here in spring, got here in summer. And from day one, they were impressing people and we were relaying the message. We relayed the message, hey, they're telling me Jordan Lyle can play the year one. They're telling me OJ Frederique, who no one was talking about because he was a 3-star, he could play year one. I said, okay, we'll see. Camp comes. They've been as advertised. I think the cat is out of the bag. They did a segment on Canes camp where basically they were talking about the most impressive players. And Pete, I'll let you roll it.
Two people who I think had a great camp and made plays. OJ.
I'll probably say OJ.
OJ, man. OJ in the last scrimmage just performed at a high level. You know, as a young guy, as a freshman, you never expect that from a freshman. And this guy just took the step in being a mature young man and just be able to make plays, man.
And offensively, I would have to say J. Lyle. J. Lyle, he made a big leap since he got here in the summer to now. I mean, he's hard to tackle. He rarely goes down for the first man. It's always 2 or 3 people having to tackle. He fights for extra yards. He's got way better pass protection. So OJ and J. Lyle for sure, I think had a tremendous camp, and they're going to make some plays this season for sure.
And the interesting thing about the players saying is they're asking about guys who stood out in camp. It's not just newcomers, right? So this is pretty much everyone on the team that they're talking about here. And for them to really signal both of those guys as potential impact players this year, I mean, it says a lot.
Yeah, and look, they used the clips in the YouTube, so I feel comfortable talking about it now. Frederique had 2 interceptions in the last scrimmage against the first team, and these were not like tip balls. I mean, these were in coverage, locating the ball, finishing the play against big-time receivers and a big-time quarterback. So, length, speed, patience, hips, ball skills, ability with the ball in his hands. He's a kick returner at St. Thomas, former receiver. He can score. He's got a lot going. He's got the mental. True freshman, it'll be a process throughout the season. But we needed an impact corner in this program, a young impact corner in this program. Need multiple, but we definitely needed one. And I think we got one with OJ Frederique. And again, go back to May. And those who are longtime listeners can vouch. We've been saying, watch out for this guy. He can play early. So, that's why you guys tune in daily, like and subscribe. Appreciate all of you for your support. Got another big event coming up Wednesday. Mike Ryan, most polarizing man in Miami Hurricanes football, and myself and Pete, who is going to I think we're going to get you on the big screen, right? Did we figure that out?
I don't know if we've technically done all that yet, but hopefully by Wednesday we'll have that situated.
A lot of people saying they want more Pete. Big, they love your face, Pete. They want your face bigger on the screen. We're taking care of Pete. We're setting it all up. We're going to be live 5 hours live, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. live. Kind of like the signing day show that Pete did, Marathon. We got interviews with George Sedano, Bear Falica, Kevin Clark from Around the Horn, Brian Monroe. So we got a lot of guys lined up and more to come. We are working on some big things. So it's going to be unbelievable. Of course, we'll have your guys' live questions, and we'll just keep it rolling, man. 5 to 10, 5 hours. I know your mind's going to be thinking of the Gator game anyway, so you might as well plug in and be with some like-minded Canes fans, and we'll all get ready for the game together. Of course, it's going to be unbelievable. Then Thursday, I'm going to drive my preseason podcast, actually recording it today after the show. So we'll get you guys hyped. Ton of content coming out. Like and subscribe and stay tuned. But want to do a little bit of analysis here before we get into some of the hype and fun of Miami's offense against the Florida Gator defense. We'll do the flip of it tomorrow. But this is a matchup which is on paper a major mismatch. You had a Miami offense that was good last year, turned the ball over too much with Tyler Van Dyke, but was statistically good. And that, of course, has added Cam Ward, has added Sam Brown, has added Damian Martinez, has added other players. Flip to the Florida Gator defense, and it was one of the worst in the country by pretty much every single metric in the SEC. in the country. So, Pete, just before we get into the numbers, what's your overall take on this matchup?
Well, look, it's tough to always just go off of, this previous season and looking at what Miami's done with their roster and bringing guys in. And, there's a lot of turnover, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, on the defense side of the ball as well. But obviously, we're talking about offense here. With Florida, I think their optimism comes with some of the size up front that they have. They've, added a couple guys, but really for the most part, that defense isn't all that different, I don't think, from what we saw on paper last year. So they're banking on a lot of guys taking a big jump, which obviously can happen, right? And there are circumstances outside of just looking at the stats that could make this game turn one way or another. But I just don't see the upgrades on that side of the ball that you would hope if you're a Gator fan, looking to make a jump from what they did last year to this year.
Yeah, and let's go through some of those numbers because I think they're pretty telling. Again, different teams. It's the portal era. But remember, Miami added Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, Sam Brown, got Zach Carpenter at center. A lot of very talented freshmen as well. Some guys elevating that brought, bring back Mauanoa, bring back Cooper, bring back Rivers. We'll go into all that. But when you look at what the Gators added on defense and the lack of sort of impact players, I think these numbers do not bode well for the Gators. Of course, it's a rivalry game. All those things. We've seen Miami lose this kind of game a million times. We'll all be sweating. But the numbers, I think, tell a big story. Starting here. Scoring offense. Pre-Cam Ward. 30.1 points per game for Miami. Good for 38th in the nation. Huge jump from the year prior. Florida scoring defense. They allow 29.5 points per game, which is good for 85th in the nation. Yards per play. Miami, 6.1 yards per play. That's 25th in the nation. I like to do it on a per play basis as opposed to total yards because you don't know the pace of different teams. It can be distorted. Yards per play is much better measure of efficiency. So Miami, 6.1 yards per play, 25th. Florida defense, actually decent in this stat, 5.7 yards per play, 51st in the nation. So not bad, but not horrible. Where you really get into trouble here, if you're a Florida Gator fan and you want to see the most improvement, is the running game. Miami yards per rush last year, 5.0 yards per carry. That is 20th in the nation. And that was without Damian Martinez. That was without backs making big runs. Miami struggled with explosive runs and still averaged 20, or was still 20th in the country with 5.0 yards per carry. That was because of the quality of the offensive line, the yards before contact. Miami ranked third nationally in that stat. Gators yards per rush defense, 5.1 yards allowed per rush. So even Miami was 20th in the country. Gators made every opponent look better than Miami. 117th in the nation. So, P, what do you think about that matchup of the Gator run defense and all that size against Miami's running game?
Well, it's interesting because they did add Joey Slackman from Penn, and look, he's a guy that, although he's coming from UPenn, coming back as PFF notes, as you see here, as the highest graded returning D tackle in the SEC, and again, big jump up in level of competition there, obviously. But listen, as a guy who I'm trying not to overlook them, right? I look at Florida State bringing in Jared Verse a couple years ago from Albany, and some of us were probably looking at it like, well, he's coming from Albany. What sort of impact can he make? And we saw what he did the last couple of years for them, and obviously went on to get drafted this past year. So I'm not going to overlook Slackman, 6'4", 300 pounds. Cam Jackson, another guy at 6'6", 330, 335 plus. So I think you do have the size in there. But as you and I were talking about before the show, it's kind of neutralized, I would think, by Miami's size, potentially on the interior there, where, when you're facing a team that doesn't have the size up front, those big guys can make a difference without a doubt. But I'm not sure how effective that can be against what Miami's got up front.
Yeah, and I think, look, I'm going to say this disclaimer for everything. This is the first game of the year on the road against a rival, an SEC rival, with a team in Miami that's disappointed in the past. That is what Miami's working against. So do not take what I'm saying with these individual matchups for overconfidence. But when you do look at these individual matchups or these unit matchups, it favors Miami. And again, we went through the numbers. You mentioned Joey Slackman coming in. I don't think they did enough to overhaul this run defense, given where it was. Now, you do have Shamar James, the linebacker, who was their best linebacker, injured for much of last year, coming back. He's a highly rated player, highly athletic player coming back. They expect him to make a big difference. Grayson Pup-Howard, highly rated guy out of high school, top 150 player, goes to South Carolina and didn't play much as a freshman. I think he had like 10 solo tackles, was a backup player, told he kind of struggled to adjust, but he was a very highly rated athletic player. They didn't want to lose him. He goes to Florida. So you have two very good freshman linebackers, true freshman linebackers. So there's athletic talent in that Florida linebacker room that you can see if it comes together for those guys. Improvements, of course, this is going to be a game where everybody's hyped, flying around. The flip side of it is it's not like these linebackers are extremely experienced. So could they make mistakes against Miami's running game? That's something that you could see as well, because they're athletic, but they're not proven, and they don't have proven run defense in front of them, even though they do have some size in front of them. I think with the offensive line for the Miami Hurricanes, in terms of run blocking, you do lose Matt Lee, who'll probably make the Cincinnati Bengals. Javion Cohen has a chance to make the Browns. But the three guys you bring back are your three best players, in my opinion. Certainly your three best people-moving, physical, athletic guys with Jalen Rivers, Ines Cooper, and CeCe Maunoa. So I think in terms of moving guys off the ball, you bring back your three guys. Zach Carpenter, I'm not sure he's going to be Matt Lee, but he's a guy who was all-conference, honorable mention in the Big Ten. It's not like he's never seen size before. And a left guard, that's still up in the air as far as who's going to start there. But if you look at Miami's second-team offensive line, a lot of guys that Miami beat the Florida Gators for, right? So go look at some of the names in the mix, and you'll see a lot of recruiting victories of Miami over Florida. And that's for that last spot. So I think recruiting-wise, Miami's done very well on the offensive line, and I think that's going to be a favorable matchup for the Hurricanes. Pete, let's talk about the running game here with Martinez, with Lyle, with Johnson, with A.J. Allen. How do you see those guys stacking up to a team, against a team that's seen SEC backs before?
Well, I will say this. The one thing that we're talking about with the Florida defensive line, and it's not just the guys that I mentioned with Cam Jackson and Slackman, but obviously Caleb Banks is someone they're very excited about. Desmond Watson is about as big as anybody in the country there. But when you're talking about Miami bringing a rotation of backs that we expect to get a bunch of touches, those big guys, they tend to get worn down a little bit, right? And it's not just by the guys up front, but having to chase 4 different backs potentially around the yard when you should hypothetically have some fresh legs out there, right, throughout the game when you're able to kind of change pace with some of them. That is going to be something to watch, I believe, late in these games when they bust one outside, they break one outside. Are they gonna be able to chase these guys? Obviously, they have the guys on the edge, but to me, the stamina, 3:30 game in August, right? And this is something both teams are going to deal with, right? This isn't just a Florida thing, but those big guys tend to wear down a little quicker than some of the more explosive types, in the interior there. So that's what I'll be looking at late third, fourth quarter as the game gets into winning time there. How are those guys going to look, and what's the score going to look like? Is Miami, hopefully they have a couple possession lead where they can kind of wear them down a bit there, as I think is going to happen, throughout the season here with this Miami team. But that's what I'll be looking at with these guys up front.
Yeah, and look, Miami's running game, I thought last year was pretty consistent. If you look at Clemson, Miami's running game really won that game. There's some pretty talented guys on Clemson, some guys that are making some All-America lists, young players, but very talented. You also had 2 top-of-the-line NFL linebackers for Clemson, and Miami ran the ball down their throat to win that game. Texas A&M, Miami was able to run the ball when they needed to. Florida State, Miami really ran the ball. If you remember, Emory Williams, you didn't have much of a passing game, but Chaney was pounding Florida State, especially in the first half. So Miami's gone against good defensive lines and ran the ball. No one really stopped Miami's running game, I don't think. Add an explosive back like Martinez who can take those 5-yard, 10-yard gains and make them 20, 30-yard gains, maybe even more, 75 like he did against the Canes in the scrimmage. I think that changes the dynamic of this running game, and it's going to make it very hard for the Florida Gators to stop throughout the game. First few possessions, they're going to be hair on fire, crowd going crazy. They've been waiting. They got athletic guys, athletic linebackers. They're going to be flying to the ball. That could be tough. But I think over the course of the game, talent wins, and guys like Cooper, Noah, Rivers are going to start to lean on these guys and take over. But again, it's college football. That's why they play the games. It's not played on a spreadsheet with numbers, but the numbers do favor Miami in the running matchup.
Speaking of spreadsheets and numbers, D, let's talk about our partners at Asset Dash, the market-leading portfolio tracker and rewards program where you can do everything from tracking your investments, earning rewards, and now buying over 1,000 different cryptocurrencies on Solana natively through the app. Hit that QR code up here, take a picture of it, and get Asset Dash downloaded. You can earn rewards in the app. Asset Dash is giving away thousands of dollars a week through their app. Earn additional coins when buying through the app directly. AssetDash.com. Download Asset Dash for all of your portfolio tracking needs, cryptos, NFTs, stocks. You can see them all in a single place. And remember, enter the code CANES, all caps, at sign up for an upgraded premium Asset Dash Gold membership for life for free. This is a limited time only offer. Asset Dash Gold. Again, Canes in all caps when you sign up, and you can take a picture of that QR code to get the app downloaded directly to your phone.
What a great segue, Pete. You're learning on these ad segs. I'll do my own here. I didn't have a segue. That was my segue. But I want to talk about the Miami Hurricane team store. We did the live show from there on Friday. That is MiamiHTS.com. Is the official brick and mortar store of the Miami Hurricanes, official team store of the Miami Hurricanes. See the brick and mortar store right across the street from the university at the Thesis Hotel. This is the old All Canes. If you remember All Canes, Harry Rothwell, he's moved up the shop across the street, nicer location, premium stuff directly from the school. And they got the black strategy jersey, which is a hot seller. We were there and we saw those things flying off the shelves. The authentic game worn jerseys, which are a tremendous deal. They had an awesome sale this weekend, but the sales are continuing through Florida Week. They got plenty of great deals. And again, the premium stuff, the authentic jerseys, the black jerseys, the sandals, which people love, the orange sandals, and all kinds of stuff. Women, kids. I got something for my wife. I got something for my kids. I got my polo. Get ready for the season. It is time. MiamiHTS.com, or stop by the brick and mortar store for the absolute best in Hurricanes apparel. Let's bring it down here to the other side, not the other side of the ball, but the other aspect of this game, which is Miami's passing game against the Gators' passing game. And listen, again, game's not played on a spreadsheet, but if you look at the numbers, major advantage for the University of Miami. Now, Cam Ward, number 4 passer in all of Division I football, behind guys like Penix, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels. You may have heard of those guys. So he's the variable. He's not going to be reflected in these stats right here. Miami's yards per pass last year with Van Dyke started off insane. I think we were like top 5 in the nation for a while, but then it went down after teams started playing the pass and Van Dyke really got shook and got a little more conservative while still turning the ball over. Not the best combination. But 7.5 yards per pass for Miami, 57th in the nation. They'd like to get that number up. However, the Florida Gators yards per pass against 8.5, which is good for 124th in the nation. You think of this Gator secondary, you're thinking, first rounders all over the place like they were with Muschamp and some other guys, Meyer. That's not what this Gator team was last year. They were really, really bad, gave up a ton of explosive plays, and were just undisciplined, didn't tackle well, had some youth, and just, really stunk. I mean, for lack of a better word. They do bring back both corners, Jason Marshall, Devin Moore. They feel there's some talent there. Moore's dealing with an injury. I think he's going to play, but he has been nicked up. Jordan Castell played a lot as a freshman last year, someone who's they like, and then bring in Asa Turner, more of a run-stopping safety from the University of Washington. So we'll see how that goes. They do have a couple nickels that Miami recruited holding down that spot. We will see how those guys perform, but on paper, this passing defense is rough.
Yeah, Jason Marshall's a guy that I'm going to be, really interested to see how he performs in this game, because talking to some NFL scouts, he's still on their radar. He's obviously been a bit of a disappointment as a huge recruit, as a 5-star coming in and had his struggles last year, certainly. But he does have a lot of ability. And I'm not going to say it's the same thing, but you look at Tyreek Stevenson at Miami had some good moments, but there was obviously some situations where, and we've talked about it, a lot of it was communication related, but you see what he's doing in the NFL now, and playing in a system and a scheme that fits him perfectly with the Bears. He was one of the best rookie, defensive players in the league last year. So there's some optimism there from the NFL scouts, at least, that Marshall, that light goes off for him this year, and he takes a big step in terms of consistency and things of that nature. So again, looking at what he did last year, the last couple of years has not been great, but I still think he's someone with, like you said, some ability and the traits physically. He has them to be able to stay with some of these Hurricanes weapons offensively.
And you use a good example as far as the Miami Hurricanes. Miami Hurricanes were in the 120s in the same stat in Cristobal's first year when you had DJ Ivey, Tyreek Stevenson, Cam Kitchens, James Williams, as you mentioned. They improved a lot last year just because of a coaching change. Now, the Gators still have the same defensive coordinator. They brought in old Graybeard to help him out. So maybe those sort of, I don't say, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not changing the guy, right? The defensive coordinator is the same. These are changes on the fringes, I guess you could say, but maybe they make a difference. Maybe this guy matures and the coaching turns around, as you saw with Miami Hurricanes, where they really turned it around, not going to an elite unit, but much improved from one of the most underachieving units in the country. Now, here is where I think you run into some problems if you're a Florida Gator fan. We could talk about coverage all day, but part of pass defense is getting to the quarterback, especially a quarterback like Cam Ward. Last year, Miami's sack percentage allowed. This is the percentage of dropbacks that result in a sack. So you want a lower percentage if you're the offense. 3.6%. So 3.6 of Miami's dropbacks resulted in sacks. That was 15th in the country. So elite, almost. And that was with a quarterback that wasn't really mobile. Flip side, Gator sack percentage, 6.04%, 72nd. And this is on defense, so not good. They were not getting to the quarterback at a high rate. Dig beneath the surface a little bit, and you look at the guys that had sacks for him. Princely, Umanmian, I'm pronouncing it terribly. Princely, the defensive end, transferred to Ole Miss, 7 sacks last year. Nobody else on this defense was even close. There was a guy, Jaden Hill, who's a DB, who's no longer there. He had 2. Derek Wingo, a backup linebacker, had 2. That's pretty much it as far as returning production. Tyreek Sapp, who they're counting on, had 2. Kelby Collins, who they're counting on, at 1.5. I mean, this is their defensive line. That's what's there. So you didn't get to the passer last year. You lose your best pass rusher by far. You don't bring in any pass rushers in the portal. They get Justice Boone back from injury, who they have some high hopes for. But I'm struggling to see how Miami, at least on paper, isn't able to block these guys, considering that Miami's strength on their offensive line is the tackle position.
Yeah, I'm with you. The production's obviously not there. You know how it is at edge. Sometimes these guys need some time to develop. So we had Eric Esteban on last week, and he broke this down. It seems like they're placing a lot of expectations on guys to take a big step forward, which it can happen. It happens all across college football every year, but you're asking a lot of that group against one of Miami's strengths, which is this offensive line.
Yeah. So bottom line, when you look at this matchup, Miami should score a lot of points. If Miami does not score a lot of points, this is going to be a dicey game. Now, I don't think Miami's going to go up there and do whatever they want. This is a road game, loud environment, first game. You got to get the kinks out. A lot of new pieces for Miami. Gators are going to be playing with a lot to prove. I do think the Gator defense will play better than they played a few years ago. You look at Miami, when Miami played Florida back in 2008 with Tim Tebow and Aaron Hernandez and all those guys. Miami had a bunch of true freshmen making plays just because they were so hyped up and ready. Gator offense eventually broke through towards the end of that ball game. But, emotion can carry you a long way, and Miami is working with some new pieces. But Miami's got to score the ball in this game. They have too many advantages in the running game, in the passing game, on the offensive line, and they have a quarterback that is obviously costing a lot of money and has a lot of hype. So you expect Miami to make plays. I think the question is Miami going to be able to avoid mistakes? Cam Ward did have a lot of fumbles last year. He led the nation. That's one area to watch. Interceptions. Cam Ward wasn't a bad interception thrower last year, but Miami as a team was very bad in that respect. Is that going to be a problem? And then just kind of like the 50-50 plays, that third down play, the holding call that kills a drive, the explosive play that changes the scoreboard. Are those going to go in Miami's favor? This is why it's football. This is why anyone can win on any given Saturday. It's college football. We've seen it. We love it. But on paper, I think Miami is the significantly better offense compared to Florida's defense.
Agreed.
Pete, you're back in the merch game. We've been quiet for a while. Tell the people where they can get the Canes Insight merchandise.
So as I'm pulling it up here, Canes Insight shop. We're going to drop the link in the bio, not the bio, the description of this video here. You see that we have this new Hurricane 2024 tee. And of course, this is the marathon that we'll be doing, me, D, and Mike Ryan on Wednesday with a bunch of guests. But I think this logo is pretty cool here, D. I mean, this is only, one of the items we have there. And we'll be dropping new merchandise soon, as you see some of the other stuff here. The obviously the original Canes Insight tee. And now for the ladies, we have the women's crop top Canes Insight tee as well.
Yep, ordered one of those for my wife. You got the hoodie, you got the 15-0, the Green Tree All-America shirts, all the classic shirts from board slogans. We'll be rocking those. And we'll be adding more. Once we beat the Gators, I'm sure we'll have a shirt mocking them somehow. Hopefully it's just the score, and it's a very lopsided score, but we'll have some stuff. Stay tuned on that. We're going to be really working on the merch side and giving you guys what you want. By the way, if you have any suggestions on merch you want, put in the comments, put it on the website, put it on Twitter. We want to make sure we're giving you guys what you want as a Canes fan and member of this Canes Insight community. Also, you want to keep adding players. So when we go through these breakdowns, it looks like it does here, lopsided. CanesConnection.com/CIS. The link is in our description. Sign up for Miami's official NIL collective. We got a ton of people signing up. If you use our link, which is, again, on the website, it's in the description, CanesConnection.com/CIS. You get first month for $1. Plus, you get access to a private Zoom call with me. We believe we have one on Thursday. We're going to be having those regularly. Latest from the team, recruiting, team, private setting, can disclose more without the Gators lurking. And you're contributing to a cause that makes a difference in wins and losses. It's not money just going to some random building somewhere. This is money that's going to pay for players. It's going to win games, directly impacting your program that you love so much. CanesConnection.com/CIS. The link is in the description. Tomorrow we'll be doing the same side, flip it. We'll talk about the Miami defense against the Gator offense, but I think all told, Miami's looking good here, man. This is not going to be like 2019 when you had two freshman offensive tackles getting smoked and Jaron Williams throwing to who knows who, Tate Martell running routes. It was kind of a mess. And we still almost won that game.
We talked ourselves into it also.
We sure did. We still almost won that game. Well, let's see how this thing develops. But I do think that you're looking at players with proven performance on the Miami side of the ball. Now the Gators are the ones trying to project players that weren't very good last year to be good this year. And it may happen. We saw Georgia Tech take a big leap forward on defense against Florida State. Motivation is huge in college football, particularly when you talk about a defense that has talent, physical talent. They could play above their weight. Maybe consistency is their problem, but one game, one home game, one crowd, one environment, they can lift it up. It's going to be fun, but I do think Miami has the upper hand.
Agreed. So keep it locked here on CanesInsight.com. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. A ton of content coming all week long here. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Yeah, this an insight to the Canes, and you know we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew, down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news, cause it's all about the you, and nobody do it like Canes Insight. 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 It's Canes Insight.